Today's value chains must be faster, more agile, and more reliable than ever, supporting real-time processes around the clock. B2B integration and collaboration capabilities are critical for keeping up with the speed required in today's business. They're key to connecting organizations and enabling them to function and compete as an end-to-end supply chain. These capabilities are also key to making supply chains more agile and responsive. According to Aberdeen Group's research, companies that are the leaders, as defined by their performance metrics, are automating more of their transactions, collaborating with their customers and suppliers on changes in forecasts, and taking actions to improve those capabilities. Followers lag significantly behind the leaders in terms of their performance metrics and B2B proficiency. Brian, what recommendations do you have for the followers? What do they need to do to close the gap?
Sure, Lori. I think the first one would be addressing the resource issues through partnerships if the means are not available internally. Working with a partner such as yourselves, can provide immediate access to experienced resources. And again, speed to execution of the project is important all by itself. Next would be concentrating on customer collaboration. I like to begin with the front end and the electronic order submission as an example, and then you get to the forecasting. For the reasons that I mentioned before is the more I can fix on the front end, the less of that error I propagate throughout the organization and all the way back to my suppliers. Collaborating on those changes with the customers and keeping that plan fresh and the ability to replan and replan is the key. And I think the mistake is to freeze and not do anything. I mean, that's where I think a lot of companies are indecisive. And what's that impetus to change, okay? Right. And I think freezing is probably the biggest thing that we run into or see. They're a little paralyzed. What do I do? And I think that's the biggest mistake because the leaders are out there getting ahead of the game. So by definition, you're falling backwards, I think, and that's the peril. So.
Absolutely. So in terms of the leaders, what actions do you recommend for them?
Sure. I think we recommend that they focus on increasing the percentage of customers you collaborate with on an order change to over 70%. They're somewhere in the 50s or 60s now. Focus on increasing collaboration with over 50% of the customers. They're not quite at the 50% range. They probably do capture the biggest demand with the customers they do work with, but I'd say expand that footprint to get more customers on board. It could be that they may have most of their volume on board, but not all the customers, so that would be the point. On the supply side, I'd say focus on sharing forecasts with over 60%. Get that to where you really are managing most of your suppliers, the higher percentage, automatically as much as you possibly can. Again, the same issue. I may have the volume covered now, but extending that to more suppliers, even though maybe lesser volume, it just takes more off the burden of procurement, okay? So they can focus on more value-added things versus managing changes, in a schedule. So that's a big deal. Finally, measure and track your information, percentage of on time. And it's amazing to me still, companies don't know what those metrics are. So I'd say if you don't know the percentages of the things I just discussed, that's not a bad place to start.
Thank you, Brian. And of course, having all the right technology capabilities in place to support all of this is key. And we'll discuss this in greater detail in our next segment.